This is Marcus Kowal with Studio MMA and MMAnytt, and we're here in Santa Monica at Dynamics MMA with Gabe Ruediger. You're fighting on Friday. How's the weight? How are you feeling?
The weight's a bit high. I think I'm about 196, maybe 197.
And you're fighting 155?
I'm fighting 35, actually. I decided that might as well make a big cut. You know, I've got a few days. Shouldn't be too bad. Nah, I'm 64 this morning, fighting at 55. Feel good, I'm ready to go. Just having some coffee and relaxing.
You had a pretty big surgery, and you were about, what, 3 months ago now?
6 months ago in August.
Been 6 months already?
Yeah.
But you weren't even sure yourself, right? If you would be able to continue fighting, and you've come a long way since.
Yeah. I had a discectomy of my L7, or no, I'm sorry, L3. I'm not sure which one it was. But initially I wasn't sure, you know, how my body would react to training. I started back training with Anthony Hardunk maybe 3 weeks afterwards, hitting pads, slowly but surely amping into to training, and then trying to get back in shape. And I mean, I went through 2 training camps, feel great, have no problems, especially with my back. So I'm ready to go.
And you mentioned you went through 2 training camps.
Yeah.
But the fight wasn't there. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, the fight was there. It's my opponent wasn't there. I don't know. We did weigh-ins, and the guy was supposed to fight. We shook hands after weigh-ins, and, you know, ready to go to work. And I called the promoter the day of the fight, say everything's good and everything's on. He goes, yeah, I'll see you at weigh-ins. I'm sorry, see you at the fight. I get to my locker room, and immediately get a text. Where are you? I go, I just got here. The promoter's like, I gotta talk to you. And it's just typically a bad sign when you get a text like that as you're about to fight. And he runs down to the locker room and goes, oh, you know, your opponent hurt himself. And I go, he hurt himself? He goes, yeah, he hurt himself training this morning. And I was like, okay, it's the day of the fight, but I don't know. Who am I to say that, you know, probably hurt himself. I don't know.
So how is that? You mentally, physically, weight-wise prepared for the fight? Yeah. You know, it's one thing when you get a call the week off, someone's injured, right? But you made the weight, you made the cut, and you're in the dressing room ready to fight. How was that?
You know, I laughed about it. It was just one of those things like, really, if this is what's happening? I came back from my surgery. I put all the work in to get back in shape. I was well prepared. And actually, my opponent was a reserve fighter because my original opponent got pulled by the commission a week beforehand. So, you know, we're shuffling for opponents. We finally get an opponent. We do the weigh-ins, and when everything fell through, what could I do? I just kind of laugh about it.
But it is a great promotion that you're actually fighting for. Bamma's done a great job here in California, putting on some really good shows. And Friday, they have an opponent for you. He's game. He's ready. Tell us a little bit about your opponent.
From what I know, I think he's going to be there. From what I've been told, I hope that we have another reserve just in case. Maybe you could step in just in case.
I'm a little bit too big for you. But.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But I'll cut to 15s. Yeah, no, we got tough guy named Scott Caitlin from San Diego. Trains with some legit guys. Trains with Alliance, and then I think Victory MMA. I think his record on Sherdog is apparently not his real record, which is pretty common because you know, you do the underground shows or some of the other smaller shows. I think he's 8-6. His nickname is KO. So. I didn't see any KOs on his record, but maybe, you know, maybe he knocks out people in training all the time. Who knows? But I think he's going to be a tough opponent. I mean, he beat Tony Ferguson, who won the Ultimate Fighter. Yeah. So you know, he's definitely got a win against a name recognizable opponent. So I've got to be sharp, and you know, it means a lot. I got to get in there and just do my thing. And
do your thing. It's been 6 months, and you've changed your training. I've seen you prepare both for John Loazo and the way and Pagello as well. Yeah. But your way of fighting, your way of not fighting, but the way of training has changed a lot. You're here with Anthony. You're drilling a lot. Your stand-up has come a long way, and to so late in one's career change your training ways to it's looking a lot better.
Absolutely.
What was the turning point? What made you change?
Well, I think that those past 2 fights, I mean, that's enough to make anybody want to change. And you reflect back, you watch the fights, and you realize that you're doing things that are a detriment to your career. Like you know, I always was trying to pressure, trying to make something happen instead of waiting for it to happen. And you know, I was so tense on my stand-up, and I'm not going to say that I'm a great stand-up fighter, but I'm a decent stand-up fighter. But because of my way of fighting, it came across as that I don't have the stand-up ability. And fortunately, I found a great coach with Antoni, and I think that was a turning point. You know, I had a good friend, my friend Henry Akins, called me and goes, listen, you know, Antoni trains with me, and I've known Antoni for years, but I never had a chance to really sit down and work with him. And we sat down, and he's an amazing coach and an amazing person, and I'm very fortunate that I found someone that I meld with, that I gel with. Not saying anything bad about my last you know, stand-up coaches, but you know, they've been a bit more of pad holders. You know, so it's I mean there was Bob Cheney when I lived in Temecula. He was an amazing coach, but excluding like you know, Bob and Antoni, I haven't had a legitimate coach. I've had someone who holds pads, gets a great workout in, but I mean that's cardio kickboxing. You know.
And everyone says that coming here to Dynamics and working with Antoni, he's a coach. He's there for you. Kamal Shalaruz, yourself. We've got some Thai boxers here as well as Charles Bassett as well.
Yeah.
And he's not just there, like you said, holding pads. He's working with you and he's coaching you. What's the main difference with the Dutch style type of kickboxing that Antoni Holden brings and his experience from being in the UFC himself?
I don't understand a word he says. That's the biggest thing about it is I have to get a translator to come in because I don't speak Dutch and I don't think he really speaks English. No, you know, the footwork and the movement. That's the biggest thing is the movement and not just sitting there. You're throwing punches and kicks expressly for a reason, not just to throw them. And I think that was my biggest problem is you know, I wasn't setting anything up. I wasn't thinking about counters. I wasn't thinking about the real aspects of striking. I was so focused on trying to get the takedown, you know, so I can work my ground, because my ground is, and I think that's two separate parts. Is one, everyone knows I'm a ground guy, so they're gonna attempt to not let me go there, which was how Paul Taylor, and I was so focused on just trying to get Paul to the ground that I made an error with my stand-up. If I would have just stood with Paul and would have waited for the timing, it probably would have been a different outcome. But, I mean, who knows? Maybe he would have still TKO'd me.
And that was the last fight in the UFC. You know, it's been a long run from the Ultimate Fighter show. And talking about the show, the first time on Fox, the premiere was on Friday. Another one of our teammates, Jerry Carlston, was on that trying out. Unfortunately, ended up against Hickson Gracie, 4th-degree black belt in the fight to get into the house. Did you get a chance to see it? And what's your opinion where the Ultimate Fighter's gone from when you were on it to today? Do you still follow it?
You know, I actually watched that because Jared was on it, but unfortunately I was training and I missed his bout. But I ended up watching some of the other matches. I don't really watch the show that much. It was kind of interesting to see that they were doing it live, and it was one round, which, I mean, a lot of them were finishes, so it didn't matter one way or the other. But for the decision fights, it would have been interesting to see them go 2 rounds. It's a different format. I don't know. I think it's I feel bad for the guys that are going to be in a house for 13 weeks. I don't think that anyone has a concept of how bad that really is.
How bad is it, really?
Talk to anybody that's been on the show. There's not one person I know. Not one. I mean, and that's multiple seasons. I have friends that have been in almost every season. And unless you're a coach, it is a horrific experience. There's 2 guys on my season that did jail time. And they both said they would prefer jail over the house. So I don't know. That should, you know, give you some inclination of how bad it is.
Would you do it again? If you had the chance to go back in the house, would you do it?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I think I would do it again to get a real portrayal of myself. That would be the only reason. I think because people are so in tune with television that they don't use their own mind. So I think it's funny. To this day, I still get people saying, "Oh, you know, you eat cake and don't make weight," and I'm like, yo, that was 6 years ago. I've made weight for every fight. I've fought in the UFC twice since then. I made 55. I didn't even make the catch weight of 56, or the pound allowance of 56. I made 55 for each of my 2 fights in the UFC, and still I don't know how to make weight and eat cake. And I'm like, yo, come on, man, it's been 6 years. Let it go. I've let it go. Like, I can't believe you're still worrying about that shit.
And there has been no cake for this training camp for Bamma on Friday, correct?
A little bit. There's been a little bit. You have to have a little cake. It evens it out. I mean, if you don't, I don't even really like cake that much, to be honest. No, and there was no cake in this for this training camp.
No cake at all.
No. That's why I'm 64. Yeah.
That's it. And but you've also added a lot of other parts to the training and your conditioning, CrossFit and so on. And I know some people that are training that you don't know, that I know, that are training with you in CrossFit, and they're saying, "Wow, Gabe is a true athlete in there." And that's one of the biggest things that we see, is that you're turning into a true athlete and a professional athlete. What would you say is so late in your career, saying, "All right, let's get
saying that." It's so late in my career. I think I'm.
Oh, so many years into your career.
Okay, all right, I'll take that. That's
yeah, so many
better.
years into your career, and now you've turned it around, and it's a new Gabe. It's a new era of Gabe.
I would think so, but when I started it,
I'm not saying that you're old, even though you are. But
I am old. I'm okay with that. I'm like 2 years younger than Randy Couture.
Really?
Yeah. You know, yes, really. That's not sarcasm. No, when I started this, it was never to be an athlete. It was never to be a pro. I did it because I enjoyed it and I liked testing myself. And even when I reflect back on my first time fighting in the UFC, which is actually UFC 62, I wasn't an athlete back then. I didn't know how to train. I mean, when I think about diet and my conditioning and everything it's the evolution of the sport. And unfortunately, I started my first fight was 2002, it's a different era. I mean, now everyone is an athlete. Everyone has to, you're getting guys that are legitimate athletes that are now doing MMA instead of, being a fight, someone that trains and then wants to fight. It's different. You like John Jones is, I think both of his brothers are in the NFL. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, he's an athlete. Like, you know what I mean? He just decided to do this sport. And so with that, you have to evolve. And I mean, I can sit and still follow my old training regimen and go grapple for an hour and then be done with it, or I can expand and try to grow. And as a martial artist, I want to grow and expand. Like, even when I'm done with MMA, I'm still going to try to progress. I'm still going to try to become a better person and a better, not even an athlete, but a better martial artist. I'm going to learn how to talk. I'm going to take some English lessons, and I'm going to learn how to talk. But I'm going to try to expand as a martial artist.
And the card on Friday, we've got some great fights on there. Yeah. It's yourself, Gabe Ruediger. We've got Chad the Savage George. The Savage George, who's not going to be a Savage 35 on Friday. He's fighting at 45. And then we've got Mike. I wish I could pronounce the Joker, pronounce his last name properly. Goimon. Yeah. Gaimon.
How did you say it? Guyman?
Yeah, Gaimon.
Right. It's Guyman.
All right, Gaimon it is.
But it's Gaimon. I said Guyman.
we got 3 former, UFC, and now Chad obviously was in WEC, which now is the UFC. That's a pretty good headlining card for Bamma. Bamma's done great things for MMA in California. Talk to us a little bit about the promotion.
Yeah, I think Bamma's done an amazing job. They're a smaller promotion, obviously. But for a California-based promotion, they're doing a great job. They treat us right, and they put on great fight cards. You can't ask for much more. I mean, the Commerce Casino is a great venue. Yeah. I mean, it's close to LA. It's clean. It's a fun time. I don't know. It's good.
And this is gonna be the first fight for 2012, yes. But it's not the last one. You got another fight right after that. Yeah. Where and when?
I'm fighting 3 weeks later, April 7th at Super Fight League. I'm fighting the always entertaining Paul. I don't speak English, but I'm English Kelly.
But wait, that's gonna take place
in India. I unfortunately can't. Is it Chandikar? I believe is the city that it's in. I might be saying that wrong, but yeah, Super Fight League in India, April 7th.
So mixed martial arts in India.
Yeah.
The sport is obviously spreading its wings, and I presume you've never been to India before.
I have not. This is a new experience. I'm excited.
And taking a fight with such short time between Friday's fight and 3 weeks later, how does that play into your mind? Does it affect you at all? Knowing that you got another fight right after, or?
Yes and no. I mean, the thing is the way I looked at it is, I spar hard twice a week regardless. So if there was an injury to happen, it could happen in sparring just as easily as it could in a fight. Obviously, a fight it's more intense, and this person is really intending to try to hurt me. But a lot of my training partners are trying to hurt me.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I know that. So there's always that playing in my mind. But I've done a fight camp, so it's not like I'll be out of shape. I take 2 days off and I'll get back in the gym, and I'll be well prepared.
So you obviously found new motivation, and you're really coming at it aggressively. What's the ultimate goal?
I think I've been fighting for so long, and my last 2 times fighting the UFC were failures on my part. But I also feel that that's my testing ground. I mean, I would prefer to fight in the UFC. I would realistically drop to 45s. My last fight in the UFC, I cut 3 pounds to make 55. The guys are getting much bigger and cutting a lot more weight to make the weight classes. I mean, Joker Guyman is fighting at 55. He's a 70-pounder, a huge 70-pounder, and he's fighting this fight at 55. If that's any indication of what the guys are doing. And I feel that, with my body composition and in my understanding of diet and everything now, 45 is not an issue.
Have you made a test cut for 45?
I've made it down. I didn't cut all the way to 45, but I made it to 50. Just
without cutting the water.
Yeah, without cutting the water and everything, no problem.
So making 45, getting back into the UFC. How soon would you say 2012, 2013?
I don't know. It depends. Right now, I got to focus on Friday, and then immediately I got to focus on April 7th, and both those fights are at 55. I'd like to take maybe a month off. I'm pretty beat up and tired. So probably realistically, I'll take my next fight after that at 45. And we've talked to the UFC, and they were saying 1 to 2 fights at 45. But I think if I get 2 wins at 55 and then drop to 45, probably right there.
Here at Dynamics MMA in Santa Monica with Gabe Ruediger. You can also follow Gabe and his career. He's got some funny tweets as well. Gabe, at Gabe Ruediger. Spell your last name. I don't think most people can.
Yeah, they can't. That's always, they always spell Ruediger. There's an E. Ruediger.
And if you want to see more, you can actually stream the fight live on Friday from Bamma USA at the Commerce Casino in Los Angeles.
That's right.
Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you so much.